This episode of Power Women of the Trades is also brought to you by Forrest Perry of Forrest Perry Digital Marketing. Want to generate more leads for your service business? Trust his team to deliver quality new customer leads and protect your brand online. Check out perrymarketing.com today.
Hello everyone. We want to give a quick shout out to our amazing partner, Rilla, the game changer in the home service industry. Rilla's virtual ride-along software means no more physical ride-alongs. With Rilla, you can coach your team virtually 100 times faster and boost your close sale rates like never before. Don't miss out. Join the movement today and watch your sales soar. Visit rilla.com/PWT to learn more.
Most businesses' online presence is boring. And by being boring, they're losing out on potential sales and customers. Being interesting and exciting is what draws customers in and gets them to buy from you. But it's hard to be interesting online when you're focused on running your business and taking care of your customers. It doesn't have to be this way. We have the key to unlocking the solution to your problem. Key Heart Marketing can help take your business from boring to brilliant on social media. We can vouch for them. They run our podcast socials. If you want to have a strong social media presence that allows customers to know, like, and trust you, connect with Key Heart Marketing at keyheartmarketing.com. Welcome to Power Women of the Trades podcast. This show is all about breaking barriers and changing the game. Our guests will feature some of today's most successful female entrepreneurs and other advocates of our industry as well. Because if there's one thing we know for sure, female-led entrepreneurship drives change on multiple levels. We want to empower women in the trade industry like you so you can maximize your potential, stay balanced, achieve long-term success, and claim ownership over your life. Let's get started.
Welcome back to Power Women of the Trades podcast with Cassie and Heather. I am so freaking excited today that we have Mia, who is a partner with Wizard of Ads Marketing. A lot of us have heard of Wizard of Ads, and that's a unique operation that I am obsessed with. We at Quality use them, but I am so thankful, Mia, that were introduced into our lives. You were like the match that we needed. And I was saying a second ago, Mia, I'm going to read your bio. And because she's like cracking up and I don't normally read bios. Normally I let you talk and we're going to do that for sure. But I feel like Mia's bio says so much about her experience in marketing and why I love you so much. So I want to read it just to share, girl. Okay. Mia, with over 3 decades of marketing leadership, Mia has helped brands like Abbott, Google, Dell, and GE bridge the gap between strategy and human connection. Her expertise lies not just in building marketing campaigns, but in building trust, alignment, and persuasive momentum across every stage of the customer journey. As a former chief marketing officer and VP of marketing, Mia has led large-scale corporate transformations by putting the customer at the center of everything. In business to business and business to consumer, she's developed data-driven strategies that drive revenue, deepen loyalty, and improve the customer experience. Mia now focuses on working with owner-operated businesses, especially in the trades, and with quality, yay. Clients say she has a gift of uncovering what matters, whether it's what's holding a business back or what customers care about the most. She listens closely, asks the right questions, and spots things others miss. And that's how she helps owners fix unclear messages and spot missed opportunities. She's passionate about mentoring rising talent and helps high-performance organizations build and scale practical, customer-first marketing. Her experience includes market segmentation, competitive analysis, demand generation, digital strategy, and customer insights, always tied together by the brand story. What makes Mia different? She doesn't bring cookie cutter solutions. She brings her caring, hard work, and clarity to help others turn insight into action and strategy into growth. She believes the best marketing doesn't push, it aligns and it listens. It solves. For organizations ready to create marketing that's both meaningful and measurable. Erica is a partner who can make it happen.
Wow.
Mia, Heather, I know, Heather, you don't like Mia's on the marketing side with us, so you don't get to talk to her as often. And Mia, I just love you. And I was like, there's so much of that. Like, I don't think as women, we often brag about ourselves or let ourselves be bragged on. The names of the companies that you have worked with is incredible. Like, the fact that you have even made it to the trades is such an honor. And the fact that you have done so much with us at Quality is an honor. And I am so proud to be that our company's with you and that you help guide us. And I am excited to just let people hear all about who you are today.
That is so, first of all, I've never heard you read somebody's bio before. So when I sent it to Kaylee. And I had other people help me write that because, like you said, it's really hard to like write stuff about yourself. So I actually honestly had other partners help me write that. But when you read it, it's like a little bit embarrassing, but I'll tell you the truth. It's so exciting to me to have turned from what I used to do and get to work now with people in the trades. And you know, you were my first client, Cassie. And I think you know that you were literally the first trades client that I worked with. And I'm every bit as touched and honored. And I tell people all the time, you know, you're not just I have a two favorite clients. I love all my clients though. But you guys, I have a couple who were my very first, and you guys just helped me so much. You know, we can get a little bit more deeply into that, but it's just been a real honor to get to learn how to. That was, you know, part of my deal was I've known Roy for almost 2 decades, and he, you know, several times said, "Would you like to be a partner with Wizard of Ads?" And I used to think, I don't know, how would I do what I know how to do? You know, with tradespeople or with owner-operated businesses. And he used to always say, you absolutely can turn what you do to the trades. And he was a little bit right. But he taught me a secret. And that's how I knew the first day I met you. He said, you have to work with owners who are really passionate and really care. And that's the difference in the trades, I think, and why it's been so much fun for me to move from corporate into the trades, because people who own their own companies are really vested and have skin in the game in a way that I have skin in the game. Like, I care and have always cared about the companies and the people I manage. I care more about the people that I manage, you know, and like I take them in, man, and I own it. Like, I really am committed. And that's the difference with people in the trades. You guys are just as committed and really, you know, that passion and that drive is just a joy. It makes every single day. I love coming to work. I look forward to my calls with you guys. It's
I love it.
delightful.
Okay, so real fast. So, because sometimes people get a little confused, aka me, even too. So, Wizard of Ads is a whole marketing company, a marketing organization that has partners, and so there are multiple people that you may have known of or know of that are affiliated with Wizard of Ads, but they're all individual partners, and then they work together. And so, if you work with Wizard of Ads, that was something that, like I said, I didn't quite understand myself. And then, you know, you would always be talking about Roy. And I'm like, who is Roy? And everyone's like, how are you with Wizard of Ads if you don't know who Roy is? And I'm like, respectfully, Roy, now I do, sir. I do. But I did not then. And so can you tell us who Roy is and how Wizard of Ads is?
Oh, it'd be a pleasure to. So Roy started Wizard of Ads, goodness, I don't even know, Cassie, probably 40 years ago. And I'm telling Roy's story, which, I'm like, it's like daunting to tell Roy's story. So he came up in radio and he was a writer but he was really, really good. And his clients all started growing. And so finally, at some point, he was like, I think I need to stop working for a radio station and just start working for my clients. So he started writing, but he discovered something that we all practice to this day. And he's written about it. If anybody wants to know really more about Roy, he's written 3 books called the Wizard of Ads trilogy. They're available on Amazon, and they were New York Times bestsellers. He shares all his secrets. That's one of the greatest things about Roy is he just shares everything. And he discovered that brands are so much more than just, your logo and your color. And, he really discovered that brands in mass media and how to grow brands, has a lot to do with figuring out the individual stories of the different customers. And so he started working with individual owner operators, and he's grown, some of the biggest customers the names that people really know of, like Dewey Jenkins from Morris Jenkins and Brian Scudamore of 1-800-GOT-JUNK, who, by the way, you guys, is about to hit $1 billion with his brands. Ken Goodrich of Gettle, Aaron Gaynor of Eco. Roy built all those brands, and he continued to work with those people for decades. And so he kind of cracked that nut, and then he started getting too many customers. There were too many people who wanted to work with him in various different capacities. So he started kind of picking, self-selecting people he calls partners, who he could, he could share that work with and refer people to. And you can't get hired by Wizard of Ads. You can't become a partner without Roy actually selecting you. And he is really pretty selective. But it's a group of different, we're not like an agency, like a full service agency. It's just different individual consultants who do different types of work. So when you sign on with one of us, like I was just telling you, I just signed my first customer, which I'm like my first individual customer. I get to assemble the team. So I get to look out at the Wizard of Ads partnership and say, who do I think would be the best writer to work on this team with me? Who do I think is the best media buyer to work with this individual client? And so we get to then assemble teams that are really customized to doing and building the brand and building the organization that you are.
I freaking love that. Now that because again, we had been together for a long time, but I never really, I said, do y'all have an org chart? And you're like, no. And so, but I didn't get it, that it was like the partners like that and how the assignments went. And that we were like assigned to you at that point. I didn't get all that, right? Which was fine. It all worked out the way it was. But what I love about that is that the right writer makes the difference with the company. And because at first, and not to say anything negative, I had some conflicts with our first writer. There was nothing personally great person. I just didn't love the vision. And we got onto this point that where we're at now is like, I could never, ever imagine anyone else on our account. Right? Like when talking about marketing with Heather and things, like there are some negotiables with changes, but Wizard of Ads is not, right? Heather, I'm like putting that on writing.
I absolutely love it. I love how Wizard of Ads really does customize what they're doing for the companies that they work with to that specific company. I think that customization is so much different than what a lot of the marketing agencies do. And, there's a million of them out there trying to tell you that they can get you more leads and all this other stuff that we hear all the time. But Wizard of Ads takes such a different approach to a holistic view of the company and where the company is going and the dreams and the aspirations that the owners have for the growth of their businesses. I think it really, really sets Wizard of Ads apart from other agencies.
100%. And like when we hired, I thought we were just, because I don't want to get it confusing, because it can be confusing, but I thought we were just hiring someone to help us with radio. And that's not what we're doing. Yes, we've got radio and we have the writer for that. But when we meet with Mia, we're going over the entire vision, everything. We're going over what everything's going to sound like across the boards. Now, they're not going to manage those specific, like, SEO and social media and things like that, but we're going over what that entire thing looks like. And that was something that I had sought after for so long, because I had came from a corporate background myself. And so I was used to seeing, I've talked a lot about like Best Buy. I was used to seeing everything that we did look the same. The uniforms were the same. The marketing was the same. The advertisements on TV were the same. The logo, the pamphlets that we gave out, everything was the same. And I had always felt like that I didn't have someone, like I could have all these visions in my head, but I couldn't get them out of my head to translate to all of our agencies that are doing whatever. And so what Mia does is gets that out of my head, or is like tells me to slow down, or tells me like, and it's just really refreshing when I get on a call with Mia and she's like, hey, I was thinking about this, and I've jotted down this, and this is an idea we have. And it's just like, she is a part of quality.
Thank you. And I love that you think of me that way, but I have to give credit where credit's due in 2 or 3 different ways right now, Cassie. Part of why I'm able to work with you guys on, and I just got chills. I literally just got chills. The reason I'm able to work with you on brand, what I call brand alignment, right, is how we ensure that your brand is the one that people know, like, and trust, which, by the way, is Roy Williams' line from many, many years ago. Is because you had this insight to hire Kaylee, who is a total secret weapon. And you hire so many people. I mean, that was one of the reasons I knew when I met you, Cassie. You had first of all, you came out guns blazing. You were a firecracker. The first meeting I had with Cassie, she was just like, hi, I'm just here and I want to see how things are going. And she was like, they are not going well.
Let it out.
Exactly. But I thought to myself, oh, hell yeah, I can totally work with this woman. She completely cares. She is absolutely committed to making sure that every single thing is considered. Every single thing is in its place. Every single thing has been addressed. I literally got off that call and I was like, oh, she and I are going to be good friends. Yeah. We became. Yeah. But the other thing is you have a different secret superpower too, I think, which is you and I both, and we haven't even ever talked about this. We both like change. I'm the youngest of 10 kids, and what's constant in big families and what's constant in the trades is change. Things are always changing. It's completely unpredictable, and we constantly have to turn on a dime. It's hard for me to work with owners who are sort of entrenched and who have a little bit of a hard time incorporating changes, right? Cassie, she's not only, incorporating changes, every phone call is like, Mia, here's where we're going to do this. We're going to do that. And then Kaylee and I are like, and I'm sure Heather, you're right there with us. We're all like, okay, Heather, we're gonna have to figure this one out. How do we? If this is like a big puzzle, though, and that's why I love it. But the other thing is, you hire people constantly and consistently, Cassie, who are as smart and have more experience than you in other areas, and you really listen to them. When I listened to Hannah on the podcast, when I met Kelly, when I met Oscar, when I heard Heather, that's Roy always says, really good marketing only accentuates the inevitable. Okay. And what that means is when this marketing really works and it hits your organization, you have to have everything in place to take it and run with it and convert it. And, we don't have anything to do with that. That's all you. And so it's truly a partnership of how do we make sure that we're constantly looking at, cost of customer acquisition and lifetime value and bringing you all the stuff, because you just keep being able to take on more and more and more. And can you ask for better in a client?
Well, I appreciate that. And I'm cracking up because Heather and I just had a funny conversation yesterday, and I do move quick. And sometimes my quickness is as hard for some, or is misunderstood or whatever, but I move fast. And that's why it's like laughable. And Mia, you know this from all of our conversations. Like Kaylee and I have a shared or a photo album where we're collecting everybody that is copying and pasting what we're doing locally. But
Oh, wow.
you know, Mia, and I know that they will never catch us because I move way faster than anyone has, probably ever seen in the space, because you're willing to, you hear me, like this morning I came in and told Kaylee, hey, last night I dreamed this up, had to spit it into my chat GPT to help form it, and told her what I was talking about, which I want to tell you about later, Mia, off the record. And, but my brain, I just like am able to see those things. But I needed for so long a partner that could help me understand what I was dreaming, because I often say, like, I can be the visionary, but I'm not going to be the implementer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And going back to like what you're saying is like, one of the best pieces of advice I had ever been given as an owner was hire people smarter than you. Well, there are a lot of owners that are not humble enough to do that.
Or smart enough to do it.
A lot of owners.
Mm-hmm. They're not humble enough. They're not smart enough. They're not, they see that as a threat. They want to be the person with all the answers. And frankly, I was tired of being the person with all the answers. But, you know, like Heather, for example, Heather is so much smarter than me when it comes to financials. There is not a single thing in this world that I trust more when it comes, or a single person that I trust more with financials than Heather. And whenever I knew she was available, I sought after her. Right. And that's how that story goes. But I could have been like, I don't need anybody like that. But, you know, I don't need, and that's what a lot of people do. And that's the mistakes that they make, is that they are not willing to identify where the weaknesses and then hire that. And then, like I said, once we started with Wizard of Ads, I was like, I have all this in my head and all these ideas, but I don't know what to do with it. And that's where Mia steps in and is like, okay. And then, and all that wonderful experience.
And that's why I think you need people. You need people that know the things that you don't know, that have those ideas, and they become your trade partners. And it's the same with marketing as I think, you know, with your bank. You know, I handle financials, and one thing that I have told a lot of owners over the years is, you know, your banking relationship, it's so critical and so important, just like your marketing relationship, because when you need somebody to help, a marketing agency or a bank, you need to have that person to go to that you trust and that knows your business inside and out. And when you build that relationship, it just blossoms into something really great. And you can actually make those visions that all the owners are the visionaries. They have this vision of what they want to see. And connecting people with the right partners in marketing and banking and insurance and all these things, when they get to know your business, they partner with you and can make those things happen so much faster and so much better than you could do it on your own.
Yeah. But it takes, and I'm sure, Heather, you feel the same way. It takes an owner, and it takes owners, Cassie and Oscar, who have built a culture and hired people who they listen to, right? Kaylee and I get to spend hours together talking about, you know, things like we talk about billboard strategy, but then I get to sit down with Kaylee and really talk her through how billboards are designed and how do we make the most of the actual design of the billboard. I get to talk with Cassie and Kaylee about how we designed the brand and the story that is the brand, because it's all based on Cassie. Truthfully, it's based on a caricature of Cassie. It's not exactly her personality, but the reason Biggins is a quality control bulldog, and the reason his character works and it works for the brand so well, is that it has all these genuine artifacts and characteristics of Cassie and Oscar and how they run the business. And it took them listening and you know, talking to us and sharing openly with us, which is another big component of this, right? Cassie's never unwilling to share anything about how she truly is. And that allowed us to develop this character who has become beloved. I mean, this is the thing that I think so many brands don't understand is we're not just doing radio marketing. We're really building brands that make people love the organization. And when you have an organization that is top of mind, people don't Google plumber in Oklahoma. They
Yeah.
Google Biggins plumber, Biggins
Yeah.
AC.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, I haven't done it. I actually haven't done it. But if you Google, I bet you if you Google Biggins, Oklahoma, air conditioner or plumber, I guarantee you, and this is part Cassie, part Kaylee, all the hits that come up are going to be for quality because you guys have listened and Kaylee has taken the ball and run. She absorbs everything we ever share with her. And you do as well, Cassie, and you guys take that and make it part of your culture. And it really is a brand. The name quality was hard at first. We were like, oh my God, what are we going to do with that? Everybody's name, everybody says they're quality, but you guys really live it and you really made it a part of your culture, which allowed us to truly make it part of your
I love that. It's funny because they didn't tell me for a long time that they had based Biggins or that I identified with Biggins. And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, am I supposed to be offended right now? But whenever I look back, like Biggins, our quality control bulldog, and like if anyone's listening to this and wants to hear our radio commercials, I'll be happy to share them with you. But Biggins, our quality control bulldog, is the stickler of what quality looks like and what we do. And so absolutely, that is what Oscar and I have been doing. And so whenever when they finally said that out loud to me, and I was like, oh, because I'm sure if they would have been like, Cassie, we made this bulldog based around you, I would have been like, what? But you're right, because we've done so well with like all of our other avenues, but Kaylee just Googled it too, Biggins quality, and you just come up, and that's people are hearing it, and now we show up, and I, for so long I thought we can't who listens to the radio? Because frankly, I don't. Most of the time, I don't hear the radio ad.
So that's an interesting point, and I'll just say two things in case it helps somebody else in the future. So one of the things we all, get caught up in is all of the digital marketing stuff. And I did digital marketing for years and years. So it's hard to realize where mass media fits in the world. But there's two things that I think are really important for owners to think about. And that is home owners are not the 18 to 30-year-olds who are on TikTok and Instagram, right? Home owners and people who even, let's be honest, have some more than one home. I have 9 older brothers and sisters who are aged, 60 to 80. My 80-year-old sisters and brother-in-law, they're out riding bikes. They're still, they have 2 homes. They're still very, very active and they need help in their homes. And they have the financial, ability to pay for that. All of the people who are like in their 60s and, 50s, 60s, 70s, they all drive cars that have radios. They're used to listening to the radio. Believe it or not, lots and lots of people. I've shared with Cassie and Kaylee in some of our meetings, the ability to demonstrate with research. And I have the research to show that mass media is still one of the most underutilized forms of media because people think people aren't listening to the radio, but they are all the time. And you guys know, in part because sometimes you hear from people who go, stop playing those radio ads. They're driving me crazy, which is, I love hearing that, right?
Yeah.
Because it means it's emotionally connected. The other thing that I think is super interesting about this and important for people to think about is your brand and your logo are, your logo is static. When you get a truck wrap and it has a character on it, quite frankly, it's a challenge for us to come behind all of those and create a brand out of it because that character isn't a brand. It's something people can identify with, but we have to imbue it. And I think I've told Cassie this in my early 40s. I decided I wanted to get a master's in psychology. I'd always been really interested in psychology. And I learned a lot about working deeply with personality types and preferences and like all kinds of things about how to build stories and how people build stories in our own lives about why we do the things we do. And we use all of that information to help build these brand stories, because it also gives you the ability to work with that brand story, like you were just saying, Cassie, in direct mail, in radio, in digital, in everything. And that's how you imbue the story, not just in your radio ads, but across everything, and then in your company culture.
Yeah.
But people don't really think about, they think about radio as like this ancient thing, or TV even, you know? I was walking a client through the other day about the difference between OTT and CTV and what they're now calling linear TV, which is just traditional TV. But it's all been around forever. It's just knowing how to work with it for each individual company in a way that makes that company pop.
And something I found too is like, I had talked to someone, and I was that person. So it's crazy how like through the years, and Heather knows too, because her previous company, they did radio and TV for sure. Did you do radio, Heather?
Oh yeah, we used Wizard of Ads at Sky too.
So we did. What I loved about that is like so I had to change my mentality through the years for sure, and that's just growth. And because I was that person that was like, I don't listen to the radio, and I don't. And a lot of times, the only time I hear our radio commercial is when I approved it or in the office, because we play a station that's going to play it, and I'll hear that, right? But I remember sitting at a table one time, and I knew it wasn't my table of people that are in the same business as us, because I was hearing the don't do radio. I did that, and I spent $10,000 a month and wasted it. Well, first of all, I can tell you, if you're only spending $10,000 a month, it's probably not right. Like, you don't need to do that. I saw a conversation the other day, and someone said, I finally canceled that radio ad. After 12 months, it gave me nothing. And he spent $1,800 a month. And I'm like, you wasted your time. Like, so what happens is sometimes, these stations will come in, and you're just buying that one station, and that person's selling that one spot. Well, with Wizard of Ads, you get a media buyer that goes in and buys bulk. And so we're on the radio 1,200 times a week, right? But that did come with a lot of cost. Someone asks us now, when are you going to TV? Well, we won't go to TV until we can dominate TV. So we won't just spend, $5,000 a month and shove in one commercial in between two other heat and air commercials. We're going to be the one that shows 3 commercials in that commercial break, And so, and again, but I had to be able to learn those things. And then through Mia's help and the Wizard of Ads of like, no, when we go, we boom.
There's formulas.
Well, I think you have to. Well, and that's where your expertise goes in. But I know that a big question that I've gotten over the years from other trade partners is like, what avenue of marketing is working for you the best? Well, it really depends. I mean, exposure, I think, is kind of the bottom line of it. Whether it's billboards, TV, radio, banners, like there's so many facets of marketing. And if you're only doing one, or like Cassie said, you're dumping $1,800 a month into it, you're not going to get the return on investment from your marketing spend.
And we call it awareness, Heather. So, right. So exactly what you're saying is, how do we maximize awareness for the least amount of dollars in your marketplace? And there are actually formulas that our media buyers work with, that if you can't afford to pay for the reach and frequency, right? You have to have you have to hit enough people in the market a number of times. And what's the minimum number of times to get that reach and frequency goal that you have to make an impact? And if you can't afford that, we'll recommend different types of messaging for you. I had one client who actually has been on your podcast before, who couldn't afford radio. And we said, that's great. No problem. Let's just kill it with direct marketing, with direct mail, and do really great stuff. And we did all kinds of different guerrilla marketing programs with them. We really looked at who's your client base, and she couldn't even afford to do, large scale direct marketing. So we narrowed it down to just property managers were her like real target. And I went out and found a list of all the property managers in her city. And we worked on like literally calling to get their addresses and things like that. So it's just different for every client. But what we're really trying to do is build that reach and frequency. And I think the only other thing I would say, kudos to our media buyers, because the one other thing that they have going for them, for people who think they can't afford mass media, when Wizard of Ads buyers buy your mass media, it's kind of a very different rate card scenario than when you go in and buy it yourself. When you go in and buy it yourself, you're just one company, one owner. When you come in with a Wizard of Ads media buyer, you are part of our entire national organization. So iHeart and all the big media companies know exactly who we are because we buy for a lot. You guys, we have hundreds of, not just trades companies that we represent, but people, I work with a jeweler. I work with, a lot of different types of organizations other than tradespeople who are owner operated businesses. And you kind of get the bulk discount of all of that. And so we love being able to offer that.
What I loved about that too is because like the trade space has changed so much in the last 5 years. And for a long time, all of us were chasing like a silver bullet that didn't exist. But also we were chasing everything, and every person that we hired had to be trades affiliated. And what I have found on this other side now is some of our best hires since then have not been. And so while Wizard of Ads is trade affiliated, they're not solely trades affiliated. And I think that experience and that data is helpful to us, to all of us, and for so long, the only way to do it was you have to hire this trades company. They specialize in this. And we were like, yeah, that makes sense. But sometimes that's not the right decision.
Yeah. And I think you're right, Cassie, that, and as always, that there is a breadth of knowledge. And that's part of what you bring, is like you have this instinctual knowledge of marketing that not every owner does. And I'm just saying, I am lucky enough to get to work with a few who do. The others are really open to hearing and learning, but you also have these instincts about marketing that help you understand and know, for example, that if we do the mass media, what that's going to mean at the end of the day is you're going to be paying less for search, because the more people know and understand and think of your brand first, they're not going to Google plumber near me. They're going to Google quality. They're going to Google your branded keyword search is going to go up. But you know and understand that relationship. And I think that's part of why that's part of why I came to love working with you. And, every team member that I meet, Heather and Kelly and Oscar and, Kaylee, for sure, you have relationships with all the people in your organizations as well. So of course you're going to value the relationships with your customers. And that's what we're trying to do, is build that relationship. It's not run an ad on Monday and get the calls on Tuesday and Wednesday. It's literally genuinely caring in your community about the people that you serve, and how do we build those relationships with your brand over the long haul. And that's, again, where I think Kaylee is just like a superhero in terms of all the things she comes up with to do and engage. And it's part of the reason we've been able to be successful, is that all these things are a cycle, right? We don't get to do this on our own. We're completely interdependent with you guys and your team.
This has been Power Women of the Trades. Like what you hear so far? Leave us a review at Apple. And make sure to listen to our other episodes wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
All Hi, this is Jerry from Quality Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, and Electric. Homeowners know a backed-up sewer drain can be disastrous. The mess, the damage, and nothing is worse than the smell. That's why at Quality Heat...
I'm afraid I'm going to have to stop you right there, Jerry.
Seriously, Biggins?
Nothing is worse than the smell. As dog owners are aware, many canines quite enjoy a good stinky sewer.
Well, dogs might, but homeowners...
Rotting garbage, swampy water... I don't see it myself, but many of my acquaintances find it all quite enjoyable.
Well, most people would like to avoid having those smells in their house, Biggins. The drain experts at Quality can clear a slow drain before anything bad happens to keep your home from smelling like a sewer.
Much more sophisticated that way.
So you don't roll around in dead things like all the other dogs.
There's a reason I'm such a hit with the ladies, Jerry.
Visit QualityPromise.com.